Okay, folks, it's time to do some outsole stitching. So this shoe we assembled already, and it's now time to stitch it up. But I'm gonna do an example here. I want to show you without the upper attached, just with the outsole, and I'm going to use two different colors of thread so you can see what's happening. And we'll go and we'll sew on the shoe later, but I want to just walk you through the process quickly without the upper in the way so you can see exactly what's going on. Okay, so I've got a couple of tools here. First, we've got thread. I've got a pair of thread nippers. I've got a piece of crepe rubber, and sometimes when you're pushing really hard, it's nice to have this behind so you don't stick yourself. So if you have a rubber eraser, I use this sometimes. I've got two stitching awls here. I've got the fancy metal one and then the standard wooden one. And I'm going to show you how these work in a second. And then if you have a crochet hook, sometimes it's useful when you're digging around sewing the front to be able to look down and grab the loop and pull it with a crochet hook. If you want to use a piece of a coat hanger or a piece of 16 gauge wire, that works too. Okay, so let's get started. So this is your standard rubber outsole. Some of these kits have holes punched in them. The Shoemakers Academy kit doesn't. You don't need it. You'll just see how easy the needle goes through. Right? Not a problem. The depending on how firm your upper design is, that's where the resistance is going to come from. If you want to use your invisible marking pen to mark your distance, you can. I just use the width of my finger, and then that's how we should. But let's get this going here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load white onto the stitching awl for now, and we'll get started. So when you're getting ready to channel stitch, you're going to need, maybe 60 inches, something like that. You could go around the outsole a couple of times, just looping around. Too much and it ends up being kind of a pain to deal with. And hey, if you need more, you can just add more later. But I'm just gonna measure out a good chunk of thread here, and we'll get started. Okay. So you'll notice some of your stitching awls, there's a groove on the back of the needle, and then there's a solid size. So we want to push the thread through on the non-grooved side, and I'll show you in a second why we're going to do that. The groove should be on the direction of travel. So just for example, in this case, I'm gonna start here in the middle of on the inside, and we want the groove facing the direction which we're stitching. Okay. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to put the bobbin thread inside the shoe. Okay. So what we're going to do is we've got the thread loaded, and we're just going to push it in. And now we're going to back out, and we're going to grab the trailing loop, the trailing thread, and we're going to pull this in. Okay, this is going to become our bobbin thread. Okay, and then we're going to just withdraw the needle, and now we're going to leave half of our thread inside the shoe, enough to go around, because that's what's going to happen with this, and the rest is going to be outside of the shoe. Now, for this lesson, I'm going to attach this black thread so that we can have a black thread on the bobbin side. Okay, on the inside of the shoe. So I'm just going to tie a knot in here, and this will make everything a lot easier to see what's going on. So I'm going to tie a knot, and I'll just trim that off here. Okay. And now I'm going to pull the rest of this through. Okay. So now this is going to be our top thread, and this is our bobbin, and I'll just uncoil some of this here. We're not going to go around the whole shoe. We're just going to demonstrate. Okay. All right. So black is now inside the shoe. This is our bobbin, and this is our top stitch thread. Okay. So now we're going to pull out that extra thread, and we're just going to have a little inch or two here. Now, if you hold the thread in that groove, right? And now we're going to just eyeball it to make our first stitch. Okay. So now we're going into the shoe. Now, this is the interesting part. When you go to pull the needle out, you see that loop is forming right here. Okay. And that's the side that doesn't have a groove. The groove actually is gliding easily, but the rubber is grabbing on to the side without the groove, and it's making that loop. Okay. So you can see this loop is behind, right? We're moving this way towards the heel. This loop is behind. And this is actually where we're going to put our bobbin thread through. And you want to make sure that you go through the trailing loop. Okay. And now we're just going to, you see how we've got that through the trailing loop, and now we're going to pull this out. And now we're going to just tension it. And we've got you see there's a little black sticking through, too tight. So we're going to just pull on the inside. And that's it. That's our first stitch. It's that easy, huh? Okay, let's keep going. We've got our thread on the groove side of the needle. And again, you'll figure out a system how you want to do it. I like to just put my finger there. And that's how how long my threads are going to be. And now I'm going to withdraw the needle, and you see that loop is forming. And now we'll just grab our bobbin thread, the black, and push it through and pull the needle out. And then there's a little loop still. We're just going to pull and tension our thread. So now you can see, we'll flip to the inside. You can see the bobbin thread is there. Okay. And then here's our stitches. And we're gonna keep going. Now I'm gonna show you something. Let's do another stitch here, and then I'm gonna show you a common thing where things can go wrong. Okay, so I'm just gonna go in. Okay, got my loop. Now, working inside the shoe can be a little bit difficult if there's tight space or whatever. So sometimes that's where the crochet hook can come in, because if you got that loop open and you put your crochet hook in, you can just pick it up and pull it through. Okay, real easy. Now we'll back that off, and then we'll pull to make our stitch. Okay, now here's what can happen. And I'll show you what it looks like, and you'll see how to deal with it. So we're making a stitch, okay? And it's really easy to actually you see what's happening here? This is the loop that's forward, right, on the wrong side of the needle, right? It's on the traveling side of the needle, not the back side. So we've put that through by accident. Okay, and we pull this through, and you're like, wait a minute, what's going on here? My needle is now captured. Oops, it's on the loop and it came out. Oh, now what? Okay, don't worry about it. The easiest thing to do is to just grab this loop and start pulling, and you're just gonna pull all the way through. Okay, just keep pulling through and releasing the stitch, and you'll see what's going to happen is that bobbin thread is going to come loose. Okay, and you're still there. So even if you have to take it all apart and unthread the needle, it doesn't matter. That's how that happens. So again, you saw what I did there, right? I picked up the wrong side of the loop inside the shoe, and like I said, it's easy to do that by accident. But it's easy to solve that problem. Okay, now let's say we've gone all the way around the whole shoe, and we want to finish. Okay, so there's no special trick here. We're just gonna maybe you're overlapping, right? So that you get to the end of the line and there's a stitch. You're just going to come over, you're going to double. Now, this is where you're just going to take the thread and pull what's left. You're going to pull it all the way inside the shoe. So now you've got two ends inside the shoe. And I'm just going to trim them off here. And then you just tie a knot. Now, when you buy a pair of commercial shoes, you know, production factory shoes, they might take this long thread here and stick it underneath the footbed and tape it down. You can trim it off. You just want to be careful. And that's why I like to do it on the inside of the arch here, because there's less chance that it's going to be inside the shoe bugging you. Okay, folks, so that's channel stitching, right? Again, it gets a little tricky when you get to the toe of the shoe, and that's why you're going to use the hook. I'm going to show you an exercise when we go to do the shoe, how to do that. But well, here, you know, let's do it here. Let me show you quickly here how you do that. So let's go ahead and I'm going to use white thread, so it'll be a little easier to see what's happening inside the shoe. But we're just going to make a stitch or two inside the shoe. Okay, so we'll say we're down here, and I'm going to go ahead and push in. Okay, now you're like, okay, wait, now what? Right? Well, here, let's grab our hook here, and if you look way down inside the shoe, right, you can grab that extra loop with your hook on it. Can you see that down there? You can grab it with your hook, and we're going to pull it. You know, I'm going to use my other hook here and get a hook on it. Okay, so now I've got that, and I'm just going to keep pulling because I want to have a nice long loop. Okay, so now that I pulled that out, this actually is my bobbin thread, so I'm going to keep pulling and get my bobbin thread inside. Okay, so now I've got my bobbin thread inside, and I'm going to withdraw. Now I'm going to make my first stitch. Okay, so now I'm gonna make my stitch here, back inside the shoe. Okay, all right. Now I'm gonna back out a little bit, and now I'm gonna reach down in again, and I'm gonna pull this loop out. See how far I'm pulling that loop way out here, right? Okay, and I'm gonna withdraw the needle. So now I know I'm not going to be on the wrong side here. And you don't have to do this for too many. It's just the ones that are really close to the tip of the shoe. I'm going to push that through, and now I'm going to pull and make my stitch. Okay. So that's how you use the crochet hook or your wire to pull that loop in. So that's how you make a stitch way down here in the tip. The hardest ones, of course, are right here. The heel ones are easy, but that's basically how you do it, folks. So again, okay, so what's this for? This is for if you're really pushing hard, okay, and you're worried about bending your upper and you don't want to stick your finger, just put that behind, and you can poke in and you don't have to worry about sticking yourself, right? So it's pretty easy to do this. So I like to use a piece of crepe rubber for that. But that's it, folks. And now we'll go ahead and in another video we'll finish this shoe. But that's basically the technique for how you channel stitch. So hey, and if you have any problems, just go ahead and contact Andrea or myself, and we're happy to walk you through this. So that's it, folks. Thanks.